This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We're going to have some very special guests on later. Judah Friedman, a writer and producer in Hollywood, as well as Ashley Hamilton, also a writer, an actor, and a songwriter. And they're going to give you their take on what's going on out here with regard to the impeachment proceedings, how it's perceived from all sides of the political and entertainment sector. But first, I want to get into a major breaking development. I don't want to sound like Sean Hannity. You know, every day it's a major breaking development. Things are going to happen. Justice is going to be done. Well, you know what? Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch are actually seeking justice. We're not just shooting off our mouth. And what we did, and what I did in my personal capacity, just yesterday evening, is to file a lawsuit against Joe and Hunter Biden, as well as people on his campaign staff who interfered with our YouTube Google channel, Freedom Watch USA TV. You can go to YouTube and see it again, because when I did this radio show a few weeks ago, as I explained in part last week, I promised a citizens grand jury to seek the indictment of Joe and Hunter Biden for their corruption in the Ukraine and also for their corruption in China. No sooner than doing that, our YouTube channel of Freedom Watch was taken down, and not just that particular show, but every show that I've done and every YouTube over the last several years, just wiped right off of YouTube. Well, I figured out how to fix it really quick. I got a hold of the lawyer who represents Google YouTube in the antitrust lawsuit that I brought. He's from Williams and Connolly, not coincidentally. That's the Clintons' law firm, and they represent other Democrat interests as well. And I said, look, you better have your client put me back up by noon tomorrow, or I'm going to sue you and the Bidens for collusion. Well, YouTube did put me back up, and I haven't sued them yet. Hopefully they won't do anything further. I've got a lawsuit against them in terms of the antitrust case already. I don't need any more lawsuits against Google YouTube. That's strong enough. But I did sue Joe and Hunter Biden yesterday, as well as the campaign. And you can find that at LarryKlayman.com, and you can look at it on freedomwatchusa.org. And the theory of that case is that my reputation and my goodwill has been harmed, because taking someone off of YouTube like that creates an impression that you've done something wrong, that you may have committed a crime or you did something else that, you know, is abhorrent. And in fact, their excuse was, well, it's hate speech. Is hate speech to talk about the crimes of the Bidens? Are you kidding me? So this lawsuit's going forward, and we're also commissioning our citizens' grand juries again to go forward and also to indict the Bidens. That'll happen in the next several weeks. We're going to seek to have Peter Schweitzer, who uncovered this corruption there, to testify. He can come in person. He can do it by Skype. Saw what we did with regard to Robert Mueller. We indicted him a few months ago. And, of course, we're going to try him, and we'll try the Bidens also when we get the indictments. And there are many others coming down the line. James Comey, Rod Rosenstein, the Lovebirds, Lisa Page, and Peter Strzok, Bruce Orr, you name it. And as I've said time in and time out, and so that's why it's important to listen to this show to get the latest news, is that we just don't get documents. Of course I get documents, but we bring hard-hitting lawsuits and citizens' grand juries. And I'm sure that you're getting tired watching Fox News and other channels and people promising that there's going to be justice. Well, you know what? Your Freedom Watch is doing just that. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, support what we do, because we are your Justice Department. And in that regard, next week, on October 23rd, I'm going to be in San Francisco at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. and I'm going to be there for Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Because as you might remember, these very leftist Obama-appointed judges in Arizona held him in contempt. It was a misdemeanor for allegedly profiling day worker sites. Now, he did not order that himself. Some of the deputies are alleged to have done that, but they tried to pin it on Arpaio because to destroy Arpaio is to try to destroy the president and his immigration policies. And you might remember it was Sheriff Arpaio who put his foot forward first, and I brought the lawsuit for him against Obama's illegal amnesty. 5 million aliens Obama wanted to give a free pass and let them, in effect, ultimately become citizens. Well, we brought the lawsuit first. 25 states' attorney generals followed, and the Supreme Court ultimately agreed that this was illegal, and that ended. What's interesting about this case is an individual by the name of Michael Tiger, an ultra-leftist. Go out and Google him. He was going to be the first, or one of the first, clerks for Supreme Court Justice William Brennan, but conservatives opposed him working for Brennan as a clerk and killed that appointment. Ever since, this guy has apparently hated conservatives. He's radical left. He filed a lawsuit with 16 other law professors, leftist law professors, against Kellyanne Conway for simple remarks she made on Fox News and MSNBC. He appears in a disciplinary proceeding that I've been involved with in the District of Columbia, a very biased individual. He got upset when I mentioned that I started Judicial Watch because judges are very politicized and are chosen frequently on the basis of political patronage and campaign contributions. And he says, I beg your pardon, Mr. Klayman. You know my son is a judge in the federal court in San Francisco. John Tiger. He's the one who issued some of these opinions blocking Trump's immigration policies. It's a leftist family. So he filed an amicus brief, which in effect argues that the pardon of Sheriff Arpaio, not in effect, but that it should be nullified and that it should be sent back to the lower court so Arpaio can be sent to prison. That's the effect of what he wrote. So I'm going to be up there pointing out to the justices, this is not a political case. Arpaio was pardoned, and in fact, he should have the misdemeanor conviction set aside as a result of that. So watch what we do, but it's interesting how these leftists, and you see what they're doing to President Trump these days, how they're trying to impeach him, and they will impeach him. He won't be convicted in the Senate, but they're trying to weaken him for the 2020 elections, hoping that that will cost him that election and that one of their people, one of their ultra-leftists, will get in charge and be put in power, like Biden, like others. This is what we're dealing with. It's a war of the left against the right, and it's time that we push back legally and peacefully. Now, also coming down the line is a case that I filed for Cliven Bundy in Nevada. It's now at the Supreme Court of Nevada. We're seeking to have the land that he ranches on, 400,000 acres in and around Lake Mead. Beautiful land. Some of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. This land is my land, in effect, with regard to the Bundys and other ranchers that are similarly situated. It's the American way of life. There are even TV shows that have been made about this. Yellowstone of Kevin Costner, others. Because this is about cowboys, it's about Indians, it's about rabid environmentalists, it's about evil senators, Harry Reid. And this land does not belong to the federal government. They should never have been on Cliven's ranch. And we're seeking a declaratory judgment from the Nevada Supreme Court that the land belongs to the people of Nevada and the people of Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is and also is where Cliven's ranch is, the Bundy Ranch. As I said, this land is our land. It does not belong to the federal government. So I'll be there on October 30th at a settlement conference. It's not going to settle because these crazy environmentalists and others just hate the Bundys, not because they even know anything about them. In fact, they've vandalized their property on the ranch. But this is not going to be settled, and it will go to a decision by the Nevada Supreme Court. But I wanted you to know about that because we're taking other actions for the Bundys as well. I'm defending the appeal filed by the Trump Justice Department, if you can believe that, against Bundy when his indictment was dismissed. And his sons are also affected, and so are some other defendants. And we have pushback here. We brought lawsuits for prosecutorial abuse against the FBI and the Justice Department for this political prosecution, which started under Obama, but is now continuing under Attorney General Bill Barr. And I've told you, this guy is two-faced. He's not what he appears to be. He's slightly better than Sessions, but what does that mean? Sessions was the absolute worst. So follow what we do and support Cliven Bundy by going to clivenbundydefensefund.org. clivenbundydefensefund.org. Also coming down the line, and I'm not going to comment substantively because there's a gag order on this, but I'll be at the trial of Roger Stone in Washington, D.C. between November 4th and a later period of time. I don't think the case is going to last all that long. It's a relatively simple case, but I'll be there for Dr. Jerry Corsi, who was named as material person number 1 in the indictment of Stone. He wasn't indicted. I successfully defended Corsi in that regard, and also some other defendants that were not defendants, but putative defendants. They could have been defendants in Robert Mueller's witch hunt. So it's going to be a very, very active period. And we need your support at Freedom Watch. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. We need your support at clivenbundydefensefund.org. That's a private lawsuit endeavor. And also CorsiLegalDefenseFund.com. That is private as well. So please try to support their defense, because these people are standing in the stead for you. They are protecting you against the tyranny of a powerful federal government that's out of control. I'm going to be back just in a few minutes with the second segment before we get to Judah Friedman and Ashley Hamilton talking about what's going on in Hollywood. But until that time, please reflect on what I'm doing. Share this show. Let people know what's really going on, because here you get the truth. As we say at the beginning, we don't just make the news. We don't just report the news, rather. We make the news. And that's the difference between us and others, because we're activists and we actually put our money where our mouth is. In fact, your money, because you make contributions to help us do it. I'll be right back with the second segment, A Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Dangerous.
Come here, use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Speaking of the media, speaking of lawsuits that I've brought against Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Apple, those cases are going forward. And we saw an interview on Fox News just last week. Dana Perino, not one of the sharpest knives in the drawer, but she let Zuckerberg speak. And it was so confusing. It's clear this guy's on the run. He knows about our lawsuit, our antitrust lawsuit against Facebook. He knows of the lawsuit I brought for Laura Loomer for branding her dangerous and a domestic terrorist. He knows that there are certain numbers of politicians that want to break up Facebook and the other social media companies. And in that regard, that's one of the few things I actually agree with Elizabeth Warren about, if you can believe that. Almost nothing else, of course. But he's on the run. And he's trying to create a situation now where he's trying to pretend that he's something that he isn't. And that's the problem, is that the American people are easily deceived. They're not well educated, regrettably. They take it hook, line, and sinker. And I've said before that our supporters, conservatives, libertarians, people of faith, people who don't believe in the radical left, they need to stop watching cable news. They need to get off up the couch, put the popcorn down, and actually join Freedom Watch or other groups that are actually doing something. Now, in the area of justice, I would say that other than getting documents, my former group, which I founded, that's mostly what they do. And, what good are the documents if you don't use those documents in lawsuits, hard-hitting lawsuits? You see, Freedom Watch has actual clients. And go to freedomwatchusa.org. We're bringing these actions, and these clients are risking their lives and their reputations, like Laura Loomer. For instance, I have a number of lawsuits for her. There's going to be more. And I've got lawsuits for Sheriff Joe Arpaio. There's going to be more. I've got lawsuits for Judge Roy Moore. There's going to be more. Those are just a few of our clients. The families of Extortion 17, the greatest loss of life in the Afghan war. The parents of Ty Woods and Sean Smith, who died at Benghazi. See, these are the people who are the heroes. But you see, these people don't get on Fox News. Fox News only wants people there that talk, that don't create any kind of risk for the left, that don't have, figuratively speaking, a knife to the throat of the left, because they're worried about retaliation themselves. You know, in terms of Congressman Nancy Pelosi, I mean, the woman's insane. She's out of control, and so are people in and around her. And they're scared. And you cannot be scared in today's world, because if you're scared, it's like kind of walking down the street. If that mean, vicious pit bull thinks that you think that he's going to bite you, he will bite you. And you have to stand up for what we believe in. That's what our founding fathers did in 1776 and the many years thereafter. We have to restore their vision, and we have to do it peacefully and legally. And that's why I try so hard, as I've said before, every day to do something which advances our cause. But we need more people to join that cause. We need to be bigger. And go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause. Contribute to Clive and Bundy Defense Fund.org, to CorseyLegalDefenseFund.com, to others, because these are the true heroes, not the people you see like Tom Fitton on Fox News that get documents. Okay, great. Okay, we got documents. Okay, we learned a few new things. We got so much evidence now. We could indict most of the left in Washington and frankly, a lot of the right. You know, so-called right, the Republican establishment, who are destroying this country, who are taking it down. We're back at Atlas Shrugged. We're back at 1984. We've got our backs against the wall. We've got Big Brother trying to keep us down. And the American people, if we don't rise up peacefully and legally, we're defenseless. And I've said this before. If it's not done peacefully and legally, not Larry Klayman, but there are others who are going to do it another way. And we don't want to see that happen. We don't want to see this country come apart at the seams. So that's why you must support freedomwatchusa.org. And who but Larry Klayman would bring a frontal case against the Bidens? You know, the Bidens are very influential people. You can see what they did with our YouTube channel. They can do other things. But you can't be afraid, not when the fate of our country hangs in the balance. So I want you to share this radio show with your friends. And I want you to listen every week carefully. And I want to hear your suggestions. Send me an email at LE. My middle name is Elliot Klayman at gmail.com. If you have any ideas, let me know. Because we need to band together. Because as Benjamin Franklin said, I've said this many times, if we don't hang together, we'll all hang separately. I'll be right back with our guests.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with my good friends, Judah Friedman, Ashley Hamilton, both very active in Hollywood. Judah's a writer, he's a producer. Ashley is an actor, songwriter, director. They have a pulse on what's going on here in Hollywood. They're not your typical Hollywood people. And I want to get their take on what they perceive to be the issues out here and how the Trump impeachment is going down. So, Judah, give us your take first, and then we'll go to Ashley. And we'll mix it up a little bit here because the people need to understand what's going on the left coast that is so detrimental to the well-being of this country.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is we live in a town that prides itself on open-mindedness, but the open-mindedness only, is good for their open mind, for their thought, for what they believe. And if you think differently, well, let's just say you're not invited to the dinner table or to the restaurant or to pretty much anything.
Now, there used to be a group out here called Friends of Abe. It really doesn't exist anymore. It was a bunch of writers and producers and major actors, people like Clint Eastwood, Tom Selleck, Bruce Willis, Gary and they would, it was kind of like a therapy session because, of the persecution and the discrimination in Hollywood. And it's a shame that doesn't continue. It occurred during the Obama administration. Ashley, are you aware of that group of having?
Yes, I absolutely am. Yep.
Add to what Judah's saying about your experience in Hollywood.
I feel like that group is like the resistance against Nazi Germany, in the 40s, like they have to go underground. I mean, some of them are okay, but there's a lot of them who go underground and are afraid because you're in a town where if you don't follow the narrative that everybody else follows here, then they won't hire you, and they won't. You just won't get to work with them, which is crazy. And really, what Judah said, a lot of the same things as I said, is listen, I'm not even saying I'm supporting this party or that party. I'm just saying that when we're getting to a time where we can't speak about how we feel or have different opinions, if you have a different opinion and a narrative here, then all of a sudden you're blacklisted and a racist and you're condemned for your beliefs, which is what America was built on, right? That you can believe in this and I can believe in that. And if I say anything against what they believe, then it gets irate and they come after you. And that's what's crazy, I feel like, is happening, is that their behavior, they're justifying it at any lengths to do what they do because they think they're so right and justified. It doesn't matter if they lie, cheat, or steal because it's the name of what they think is justice. And that's not fair. That's not what this country was built on,
Larry, I want to tell you a story about in 2004, at the height of all, of the Bush, crazy, the Bush craziness, when a lot of this really went off the rails. I was pitching a show to a certain network with somebody that I think had won at that point 5 Emmys. And we looked at the call sheet of who we were pitching to, and right as we're about to walk into the room, the person that had won 5 Emmys, and I'm bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, but positive, thinking everybody that's read this said this is gold. There's no way it's not going to be sold. And I remember him seeing who we were pitching to, and all I heard was, "Oh no." And I looked over and I go, "What do you mean?" And we could have been selling them gold, and they wouldn't have bought it. That was when I realized that it doesn't matter. It used to be that they made movies to make money, and if you look at most movies, a lot of movies are not making money because of a political bent.
Yeah, I mean, we do live in a highly politicized world where left or right, and what's going on and putting it to film or to TV, sells extremely well. But it is true. I mean, I've had my own personal experiences with regard to the attitude in Hollywood. Going way back when, back to around 2005, I actually sold my life rights to Fox. I didn't really make any money off of it, Fox TV. And we were going to do a show. It almost happened with A&E. A lawyer like me, Harry Claypool of Freedom Watch, which was created by Aaron Sorkin. And they told me at the time, if we're going to do this show, we have to take the politics out. We have to bring it down on a personal level. And I think that's true. I think people want to see things that they can relate to, in their own personal lives. But today, the politics is so out of control, and people are so fixated on the cable networks, whether it's Fox News, MSNBC, or CNN, that this stuff would actually sell. Yet at the same time, conservatives tend to be frozen out of these things. And there are a few people out there that can express themselves, John Voight, Clint Eastwood, a few others, but these guys are multimillionaires. And the rest of Hollywood, in the conservative area, most of them are not wealthy and they can't withstand being boycotted. So have you guys had any personal experiences in that regard?
Well, the thing is that's like, the news outlets now have become like, WWF wrestling, on both sides. And so it's just so out there that you can't really get like information and real truth because it's so narrated to one side. And, the problem is that when, like Judah was saying earlier, in a place where people are supposed to be like, be open for this, you should be open, for this, and that person wants to do this and be this gender or that, and they should be so open, but they're only opening to what they think is correct, and that's not necessarily the right thing. And the problem is when people are saying, oh my God, this is offensive and this is hurting my feelings, and the government or companies come in and start taking down people, whether you like Alex Jones or not. What the bigger issue is we're looking at like the beginning of fascism again. Now, certain speech can't be talked about. There's a punishment if you say the wrong thing, you can get sued. It's getting out of hand, and that's what I think, because of the anger, people aren't seeing the bigger picture here. Well,
I'll tell you an interesting story is that when I was in California, spent a lot of time here and, also in Florida, my native state, and also in Washington, D.C. and around the country. During the first election in 2016, I would walk around sometimes in Los Angeles with an American flag lapel pin. And people would say to me, I see that you're wearing an American flag lapel pin. You must be a Trump supporter. Right? That's unbelievable. Yeah. And then one time I'm sitting in a cafe, minding my own business, trying to have just an omelet, and some guy looks at me. I'm wearing a jacket from the inauguration of President Trump, after he won. And he says, oh, I see you're one of them. And then I said to him, you know what, I'm just trying to eat my breakfast here. So if you don't mind, you can sit there, I'll sit here. But I'll tell you one thing, is that there's a war between left and right. And I'm giving you some news here. The left is not going to win, so you suck it in, okay? And the guy just got so mad he walked out. So, that's
I'll tell you a personal story, though, before I met my amazing girlfriend right now, because on dating apps in L.A., if you're on the right, are horrific. Now, a lot of people could be in the closet because most people's political views aren't out there, but if you've had anything published, like I have it in the American Spectator and Real Clear Politics, you're easily Googled. So I can't tell you how many times I was in mid-conversation, and I'm talking about at least 30 or 40 times where I'd eventually be blocked, or they would say I can't go out with you because of your political views. Now, I'm also very open and honest about being sober. That had nothing, So I have, I often say it's easier to get a date in L.A. if it's easier to get a date in L.A. if you say you have an STD as opposed to being a conservative. And
you can say I shoot heroin, smoke crack, and that's okay. But if you're a Trump supporter,
there's zero forgiveness, and that to me really is why there's so many single women in L.A. But it's in my wildest dreams, Larry, I could tell you I have never thought about I won't be friends with somebody for a certain reason. For certain political views.
That's a great point, Judah, because the problem is I've had to walk away from tables and keep my mouth closed and not say anything because I will lose all my friends. And they like, it's gotten so crazy when we should be able to have differences. Like, you can't say your opinion in front of your friends. It's getting to a place that's really scary. I haven't seen this ever in my life before this,
Yeah, no, and it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. Now, thank God I have friends, and I know who my friends are. But for the people that don't, that are in the closet, and it's crazy that we have to use that term now for conservatives, but that is the term. Conservatives are in the closet, and they're scared to death to be honest and talk. And that's really the goal, though, of the left, right? You take away the speech, you take away the guns, like Ashley was saying. That's how fascism, that's how Nazi, that's how that starts.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, it becomes let us protect you. Let us protect you from harmful speech and from violence, and that's how it starts, just like that.
Exactly.
Correct. And it's for me, I mean, it's not just me, my views. You can find them all on the internet or anywhere, but it's who I represent. And these people have been so destroyed by the leftist media. There's so many false conceptions about Judge Roy Moore or Sheriff Joe Arpaio or the Bundys or whoever, that even if you're just a lawyer representing clients, okay, that's ostracism. But there is hope. And one of the reasons why I do spend time out here, and I am trying to get some media and getting, the entertainment industry involved, and there are those who succeed at that. It's not as much as the left does, of course, is because we need to re-educate not just the American people, but also the people in Hollywood. We have to make them more tolerant, and we have to get our point across, because the reality is that Hollywood and our entertainment industry is, in my way of thinking, our most important industry. It's educational. It's the way we're going to change things. It's not going to happen that much in the courts anymore. These judges are so politicized. Yes, I win cases. Maybe I win 2 out of 10, and that's a pretty good average given the judges that are there between the leftist judges and the establishment Republican judges that are scared of their shadow. That's a pretty good percentage. But we need to change minds. We need to re-educate, and that's why Hollywood is so important. And you guys are trying to do that in your own way, and I'm trying to do that, and others are trying to do that.
Hey, listen,
yeah, but it's like I've said before, and it's also been said before too. It's like the left is like, yes, let everybody in, but they have mansions and walls around them and their gates up, and it's just like this thing with Equinox here. The owner who bought the Equinox chain here and the one here in West Hollywood was a supporter of Trump and had a fundraiser, and now everybody's banning Equinox. Like, I may have disagreed with Obama's politics, but I wouldn't ban a gym just because someone who supported him owned a gym. It's like crazy. And I ask people half the time, like, that get so irate, tell me why. What's your problem? Like, this, Judah, they get so angry and irate. I go, they explain to me.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Even people like Chaim Saban, who's a big philanthropist, got all kinds of awards from the Hollywood Reporter, who's a supporter of Israel. He's ostracized now because he supports Israel. Who's he ostracized by? Leftist Jews, and he's Jewish. I mean, it's theater of the absurd. Judy?
No, I mean, listen. What it comes down to is this. We lost the university systems years ago.
We've got about 45 seconds, guys. So we got about 45 seconds. We're going to have you back. So, give us your verdict.
Listen, there's hope. Oh, there's hope. That's it. What it comes down to is if you can't have a discussion and sit in a room with somebody because you disagree with them, you have to look at yourself, not at me.
I in my opinion, Judah, where we differ here is I see it getting worse by the day here in Los Angeles. So I hope you're right.
Well, maybe we need bulletproof vests, guys. So maybe if we buy a couple of them or 3 of them, we'll get a quantity discount. But that's the way it is. You can't wear certainly an inauguration jacket for President Trump. I had a target on my back that day. I was in the cafe. Anyway, I want to thank you because you are true patriots, Ashley and Judah. God bless you.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now the verdict, fellow patriots. The verdict is, as I've said before, we've got our backs up against the wall. We have to figure a way out of extinction because we're headed for extinction. The president will be impeached. The matter will go over to the U.S. Senate. The Republicans don't have the guts to try Joe Biden and his son. They won't do that because he's a buddy. He's a fellow senator. The rule in Washington is, there but the grace of God go thee. They protect each other. The Republican establishments, the Democrat establishments, the judges, the lawyers, the media, all the rest of them. It's just a game to them. It's the scandal industry. There's a tremendous scandal industry on both sides. I'm writing a new book. I'll give you a hint on the title. It Takes a Revolution, How to Defeat the Scandal Industry. Because it's time. That's a play on words, obviously. Hillary Clinton, it takes a village. It takes a revolution. I'm talking about a peaceful and legal one. But we have no time. We have to react. And we have to stand up for what we think is right. And that's why we use every means that we can. Hard-hitting lawsuits, citizens' grand juries. We use the media. We use Hollywood. We write. We do protests, civil disobedience. Henry David Thoreau, Walden Pond, others, Martin Luther King, Lech Walesa in Poland, the Pope John Paul II, who was a great man who defeated communism more than anybody else. It was through the courage of his convictions and the courage of convictions of the others, including Martin Luther King, that brought more freedom to our nation and more freedom to the world. And that's why we're called Freedom Watch, because we're watching for you. But we're not just watching. We're actually doing. And that's why we need your support. And I can't say that enough. We need the financial support because we don't have $110 million in net worth like Judicial Watch. When I left them in 2003, I left them with about $20 million in the bank. I left to go run for the U.S. Senate. When you have money, you can make money. You have time to gather more names for fundraising. You can do more media. You can do all these things. But you know what? I've been tied down a lot in the last 16 years. And, I've been fighting. I've been in the trenches. I'm actually doing hard-hitting and very complex lawsuits. That doesn't give you a lot of time for the promotion. And that's why I need, at Freedom Watch, your strong support. And we need the tax-deductible contributions. We need to hire more lawyers. We need to expand this radio show. It's now heard on 55 stations. It goes out on podcast. I put it up on YouTube. When YouTube isn't taking it down, when pressure's put on them and threats are made towards them by the Bidens and others. So this is what we need to do. And as I've also said, it was the printing press in the days leading up to the revolution, which began in 1776 in my birthplace of Philadelphia. That's what coalesced the colonies. So we need to get the word out. You won't hear what I say here on this show on Fox News. You won't hear it anywhere else. You won't hear it on MSNBC. You won't hear it on CNN. And you won't hear it on other channels. Because you see, what I do is radioactive. Is that I'm going, figuratively speaking, for the jugular. I'm going, figuratively speaking, for the legal kill on your behalf. I'm not just sitting around shuffling documents like Judicial Watch does these days. When I ran it, it wasn't that way. And I hope that someday they'll join me. I hope they'll use their $110 million and do something that's hard-hitting. But right now, Freedom Watch is all you got. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Join our Justice League. You are the superheroes. And that's why, when we see what's happening to the president these days, it's him today, it's the rest of us tomorrow. And if he goes down, let me tell you, what we've got coming behind him are these radical leftists, radical atheists, radical feminists, radical Marxists, radical Muslims, the radical Jewish left. And you know that I'm a Jewish Christian, I'm Messianic, so I don't mean that in an anti-Semitic way, but my own people are very destructive on the left. And I'm not holding back on that either. So please support our cause. Send this radio show out so we can educate the American people and coalesce them like we did in 1776. I'll be right back just in a week with Special Prosecutor with Larry Clavin. Until then, God bless you, God bless your family, God bless America, and God save America. And let us pray for the well-being of this country. Whether you're Christian or Jew, we're the same people, and we need to rise up and save this great nation. Thank you for listening to me.